Right. Hello, everyone. We're here. Hi, Greta.
Hello.
Hi. So thanks so much, everyone. That felt like the longest 5 minutes ever waiting for everyone to come in, but you're all very welcome. We're going to be going through the content and a bit more information about the Audience Design Lab, which is one of the 3 courses being brought to you by the International Screen Institute this year. And I'm the lab director for the Audience Design Lab, and Greta is one of our audience designers who took part in our first year last year, and you're going to be coming back this year. Right?
Yes, very happy.
Oh, thanks. So I'm just going to share my screen now so we can go through things and get cracking. There we go. So I just want to start with just a little bit of housekeeping. We'll be taking questions at the end. If you wouldn't mind using the Q&A box, it's just easier for Greta and myself and Fatima, John, who you can't see, who are at the Screen Institute, to kind of monitor. There will be contact details on the last slide if you do want to get in touch with either the Screen Institute team or myself. Please do, because we're always really happy to hear from people. And if anything wasn't clear and you're too shy to ask, please get in touch. So the important bits, as I call them, just the headlines. The lab starts on Tuesday, the 10th of October at about 10 a.m. until Friday, 13th of October until 5 p.m. Now, the reason why I mention the times is because people sometimes want to know if they can get in the night before, the morning of. So hopefully that gives a bit more guidance as to how many nights you have to stay and how much of your time you're willing to give up. The lab is essentially for producers and their directors to come with one of their projects and spend 4 days delving into it, diving deep into the core of the story and figuring out who the potential audience clusters are for it. We do also invite you to bring a 3rd member of your team, whether that's the writer or the development executive or co-producer or an exec, or maybe even the distributor, like the local distributor. I think that can really bring an interesting dynamic. We'll come down to the scholarship fees, sorry, the scholarships, the bursaries and the fees, and there'll be a bit more information, but we do encourage you to kind of see who else you can bring. We've changed slightly the criteria from last year. Last year, we were looking for basically just 1st or 2nd time features. Now we're open to everyone. If it's your 5th film and you still don't know who your audience is for this film, you're more than welcome to join. There's absolutely no shame. I think Greta and I both work on a lot of projects that are by quite senior production companies, and they still find the whole process really insightful. So there's the more the merrier, and everyone welcome. We also changed a little bit. We're just looking for feature films at this stage. We're not looking for TV series, but documentary, animation, hybrid documentary, all welcome. In terms of the status of the project, we're either looking for your project to be in late development, so enough to have the story down, and I suppose the art. I'm so sorry, it's really loud. I hope you can't hear the drilling in the background. Just close the window. Late development, so that at least the story is pinned down, that it's not likely to change an awful lot, that you aren't going to just be adding new characters, because we really want to make sure that we're working on the closest draft of the story as possible. And then on the flip side, if your film has been shot and you're in the edit, and again you have a cut that is picture locked or rough cut, we can definitely work with that. Again, if it's unlikely to change a whole lot and that the story isn't going to be hugely different from the version that we look at. Again, if you've any questions on those 2 things, please email me. I can take it by a case study and we can have a look as well. As I said, bursaries and scholarships are available, so we'll talk about that a little bit. And the deadline has been extended to the 31st of July. So tell all your friends, but also don't delay, because we are all wanting to go on holidays soon, and everyone will be going on holidays soon, and it'll be nice to just kind of get that information before then. And as I said, we'll go through the outline now. So the lab is over 4 days, and whilst there are some sessions that are kind of more structured and more scheduled, we make a point of making the lab and the one-on-one sessions with your audience designer as kind of fluid as possible. So on day 1, we'll be looking at welcome and introductions. We've got some really fun peer-to-peer activities and reviews. So again, we're just going to be the 5 teams and the 5 audience designers. So it's going to be quite intimate, but not in a kind of, pressured way. Everyone is very chilled and very good at what they do. So we're going to have some peer-to-peer activities and review. We're going to get you to meet your own audience designer who you're going to be working with one-on-one for the full 4 days. Then we have a happy hour. I didn't want this past Screen Institute, but I'm sure they're going to deliver on that. And then we'll have a welcome dinner. On day 2, again, open doors welcome. And that's basically when you start having your full days with your audience designer. So Greta, I know we're going to come to the slide of the things that are covered in the audience design kind of like methodology, but can you talk a little bit about how handy it is to not set intense structured sessions with the teams? How did you find it last year?
No, last year it was really wonderful. It was a real dream because you don't always have this kind of setup in other workshops or environments. Because it's the amazing thing, I think, that it was a really safe space and very protected space where it was, as Síle was saying, just the 5 teams and the audience designers and some experts, where you could truly talk about what you need. So the audience design process, we will go over it a bit more, but we are there to support your needs. So of course the needs of a project which is still in development and one which is picture locked are very different, as are the needs of a project like with a first feature of a director and one with a very experienced producer or a director. So it's wonderful to have the individual sessions with the audience designers working on each project, because we really tailor the days according to what your needs are. And the wonderful thing, I think, is that we are all pretty flexible. So last year, we kind of also decided with the team day by day what were their needs, and if they wanted to go back and explore better some things that we talked the day before or not, or if we wanted to skip ahead. So we kind of all try to reach very good results, but those results are decided in collaboration with the team.
Yeah, and I think that's what's really special about this lab as well, is that you're going to be working with your own consultant and your own audience designer, who aren't going to be going around and working with all 5 teams. They're really with you for the whole time. And we're not on Zoom, so we're not kind of scheduled to times where we're feeling like our brain's about to burst. We can actually just kind of take breaks as we go. And like you said, to sleep on things and to maybe sleep on like a synopsis, or to sleep on trailer ideas and actually come back fresh the next day. So I think that's really, really special and important to mention. Thanks, Greta. I did note here, you'll see that there's festivals and sales agents. So part of the lab is also kind of bringing in external experts. And in this case, we have an expert in festival strategy and an expert in sales agent. And what we've taken on the feedback from last year is to make sure that you have, again, precious one-on-one time with both experts during the course of those 4 days, for you to be able to really go into the detail and the nitty-gritty of I'm sure you have a list of questions, or you're kind of needing help with terminology or contract or different kind of scenarios. So we're really excited to be able to bring those kind of one-on-one expert sessions this year, because I think the feedback was definitely we could have done with more time. So and I've put them there on day 2, 3, and 4, because depending on which team you're on, you might have it on day 2, you might have it on day 3, you might have it on day 4. So that's the general structure. I know it feels a little bit thin. It doesn't feel meaty enough. But I do want to show you what are the different things that are covered in the audience design methodology and the sessions that you'll have. The list on the left is tools or discussions or explorations that we do based on your project. I'll give you a couple of minutes to kind of read all that. But it's important to note that we might not actually get through all of it. It doesn't seem like a lot, but this takes hours. So again, just tailoring the sessions and the workshops to the needs of the projects, to the needs of the team, and also bring kind of the audience designers external expertise and knowledge of what the project needs and how they can support it. It's quite a lot, isn't it, Greta? Like, I think it's, I think I was very optimistic, but for example, I'm just looking at non-theatrical and educational. It could be that your project's just not in a situation now where you maybe come up with a strategy or think about it in too much detail at this stage.
No, it's true. And I think maybe it's worth giving a couple of examples from last year. I was working with a project in development, and what they needed the most was really to understand how to successfully pitch their project at markets and how to describe it. So we worked a lot also on then the materials, the synopsis and the posters, and building a pitch deck, and also realizing we worked so much into really fine-tuning what the most important strengths and unique selling points of the project are. But while you were working with a film that was picture locked, right?
Yeah, so the approach with that team was completely different. It was about kind of setting the goals and intentions for the team in a kind of big exhale of like, okay, we've made the film, now what? You know, we need some kind of guidance and a bit of strategy and a plan on what to put out. And they're doing their festival circuit at the moment, and they're doing really well. It's called Love Without Walls. I'm promoting them. But that was, like you said, very different kind of set of needs and things that we explored with them compared to the project that you were looking after. So it's quite meaty in practice. It is kind of a very collaborative, dynamic approach to looking at the project. It's, you kind of have to be a little bit vulnerable to let someone in and you know, kind of explore of that. But I think one of the questions that we get asked the most is, okay, but now what do we do with all this information? How is it helping me? And one of the things that I've tried to put in a list, but how long is a piece of string is, well, how is this going to help us? So funding applications, we know, is kind of like the backbone of the independent European industry, and we're all reliant on public money. And with that comes kind of quite difficult applications. And it really does help, because understanding already who your audience clusters are and how you talk about them really helps for those very intense Creative Europe applications and Euromage and even just national screen agencies. So the work can go to that. It can also go to meetings with stakeholders, pitching events. If you're doing kind of like speed dating meet markets, it's great to be able to present that. You mentioned pitch deck, Greta. Like, of course, all the work that goes into that can be put into statements and also done on the spot as well. We can work through producer statements as well and director statements. And then it was kind of like, oh God, all these different strategies, but it helps you shape distribution and what you're looking for in which countries. It helps you understand better, you know, the festival circuit that you want to go on. Maybe your film has, you know, maybe a bit of a social message and you want to really explore some outreach grassroots activities that can help as well. And then also social media, you know, if you're in development, is there anything that you can capture as you go into production that can support, you know, maybe what you've identified as being a very heavily social media using cluster, audience cluster. Mm-hmm. Is there anything you feel I'm missing there, Greta, in terms of like how useful and where does it go?
No, I think well, there are so many things. Honestly, it's a bit difficult to talk sometimes about audience design because it seems such an abstract concept. Yeah. While I think both of us have very good feedback from a lot of producers, filmmakers, distributors, saying that it was a bit like sometimes like a therapy session in some ways, like a super long therapy session, because it also helps you a lot to figure out and to get on board with the same team in terms of communicating the project. So, you know, and figuring what your common goals are in terms of audiences, distribution, also what you can achieve. We are talking about films that often have a big impact that can be both economical and but also like they can have an impact of people and society and so on. And we talk a lot about that. And yes, and a lot of teams tell us that maybe they are things that usually you don't really figure out together, you know, how to communicate and what you want out of it. Also another big thing for me.
And I think we're very sensitive to the fact that making a film is already extremely hard and a difficult process and quite a long process. So that, you know, coming to a space and a time to actually just kind of take an exhale and go, okay, but remind me why we're doing this again, or, you know, what is it that we're wanting to kind of put out with this film, is sometimes a very welcomed break and reflection, which as we know, it can be quite hard to find in the pressure cooker of financing, packaging, production, you know, development notes. So we really encourage people to, you know, to kind of really allow themselves the 4 days of kind of just being obsessed and talking about their project nonstop, but just in this little bubble of anything is possible and everything can be discussed, and never in a judgmental way. I just wanted to touch on what I said earlier about potentially bringing in a third person from your team. So we want the producers to be there. We want the director to be there. If your film is in development, the writer is welcome to come. If, again, that's at the discretion of the producer, whether the writer is kind of the right type of personality and it would be open to the experience of kind of like digging through this. We also welcome development executives, say of your production company or of your team, who would be interested in doing this. But what I said earlier about kind of distributors for your local territory, that could be quite interesting, because they will be able to kind of bring their approach and their strategy and their expertise into the conversation and give you some insights into what they do with festivals or with non-theatrical screenings. Which all enriches the whole experience, in my experience. Yeah, what were you going to say, Greta?
No, sorry, if I just want to add something. Our goal really is that by creating an audience design strategy together with you, we really plan on you of creating like an intentional path of communication and on distribution of your project, so that you can really maximize the impact of your project on the market, and then meaning in the industry, and then on the general public. So that's there are like a lot of maybe more intangible results, but a lot of also practical suggestions and practical. Yes.
Yeah. Exactly. So I'm going to move on from this slide, just because I'm aware of time and I want to make sure we've enough time for questions. But just to kind of introduce the audience designers, because it sometimes feel like we're talking about ourselves like just random people, but we're not. We're audience design professionals. We've been doing this kind of for years together, but then also separately. It's actually the same lineup as last year, which worked really well. I think you can see here we all have experience and backgrounds in different parts of the film value chain, from different countries, different sensitivities culturally as well, and understanding of different territories. So just to introduce them, even though they're not here. So we have Clara Miranda Sherfick, who is based in Berlin, Italian and Spanish, actually, but to put that, who comes from a distribution background, but is now a cultural writer for film, and does a lot of audience design as well. Then I feel bad talking about you when you're there. Do you want to introduce yourself a bit?
Hi, so I come from Italy. I have a bit of an international background. Now I'm a freelance audience designer, but also a financial strategist for films. So I work with various film funds and really honing what I'm very, how can I say? I'm very experienced in knowing also all the nitty-gritty daily work of a producer, because I used to do a lot of that.
Yes, you have the benefit of working, having worked at a very kind of like small boutique production company where it was like everyone was, you know, throwing themselves at the table trying to kind of get things closed and things made, and you were very heavily involved, which is a great skill to have, because I think it's important to realize the position of producers and their teams, of how difficult and strenuous and precarious the whole journey of making a film is. So it's great to be able to bring different expertise. And then we have Petar Mitric, who is Serbian, but working and living in Copenhagen in Denmark, and he comes more from an academics background, but is also very heavily involved in European policy for film. So understanding things like the role and responsibility of national screen agencies towards their producers, or towards the filmmakers. And what else is he working on? Kind of like streaming levies as well.
Yes.
Like, it's all the interesting stuff that I don't really understand. So he's a good one to talk to about that stuff.
Yeah, co-productions a lot. So he also
yes,
very experienced in knowing how you manage multiple partners at the same time. And
yes, he's a master of he's like a diplomat, isn't he? He's like a master of like being able to handle that. Yeah, so he's great. I should have put that there, but he's brilliant. And then we have Benjamin Culley, who is German, based in Berlin. Benjamin comes also from a production background. He used to be a producer, and then he also moved into academia. He's currently finishing his thesis on audience design, but is now the managing director of Pluto Film Sales, based in Berlin, who are a boutique international sales agency. So again, he comes with a very commercial mind. He understands kind of like the needs of the market and the buyers, but he also is very kind of hands-on with working with film teams. And actually, Benjamin is going to be our sales agent expert. So regardless of whether he's your audience designer or not for the whole lab, each film team will have some one-on-one time with Benjamin to just shoot the stuff and figure out what those questions are. And then little old me, yes, I'm the lab director, so I kind of run this with the Screen Institute team, but I'll also be looking after one of the teams myself, hands-on. And I come from a distribution background, sales and distribution background in London and in Dublin now, and I'm based in Dublin. But we don't need to know that, because we'll all be in person in beautiful Vienna in October. So that's it. So we all kind of work quite heavily and hands-on with different agencies, with different organizations, always with our little audience design hats on. So, I mean, obviously I would say this because I put the lineup together, but these are really some of the top audience designers in Europe. And I'm so thankful to Greta and the other three to be joining me. So that's them. Bursaries and scholarships. Okay, this is where I had to put a lot of text because I didn't want to make any mistakes. So the cost per film, so per project, is €1,950. And that is regardless of whether there's 2 of you or 3 of you. So you can still apply and just be the producer and the director. It's going to cost you €1,950. Whether you bring in a third person exec, development, writer, whoever, the cost is the same. So for me, I'd be like, well, I'd definitely bring an extra person then if the cost is the same, but that's completely up to you. Again, what your project needs and the sensibilities that you have with the team members. The fee covers the lab, lunches on all the days, 2 networking dinners, the happy hour that I mentioned earlier, and coffee breaks throughout the day. It does not cover the transport, accommodation, or transfers that you will need getting to Vienna. So I just wanted to highlight that. We'll come to it in a bit, but there is financial support that you could apply to for that. Because the lab is funded by Creative Europe, thank you Creative Europe, there are scholarships for countries and applications from low capacity countries, which are listed there. So if you are applying with a project from any of these countries, please get in touch. There will be a reduction in the fee for the lab. And then also to let you know that we have bursaries available for people who have caring duties, so we can support you with that, and also anyone needing extra assistance due to disability or impairments that they may have. We also have bursaries available, so please get in touch, put it in your application. If you're not sure, you can always email the Screen Institute team. Finally, we do have a small bursary for those in need of financial support, that can cover some of the cost of the lab. You will be required to write a statement with your application as to why you need it and how much it would be. It's at the discretion of the head of studies and the Screen Institute. So we would also encourage you to reach out to any of your, what are they called? Like development, upskilling / national screen agency skills. They all have the word skills in it. Basically, anyone who has any national agencies who have budgets to support their local filmmakers to attend labs and training opportunities and festivals and that sort. The list is quite long, so I didn't copy and paste it here, but there is a pretty comprehensive list on the website of the Screen Institute, particularly the Audience Design Lab. At the bottom, you will see that actually John and Fatima very kindly highlighted who you should go to depending on the country that you're applying from. So I hope that's clear, but again, we can take questions. And we'll take the questions now. So just to remind you that we did extend the deadline to the 31st of July. So have a little look, but we would encourage you to apply soon, or to get in touch if you have any questions, if anything wasn't quite clear, or to start now using the Q&A box and we can start answering. Oh, thank you. Fatima / John just put the URL into the chat there for everyone to go and apply. So is there anyone who has any questions? Please start using the Q&A box there and we can answer them as we go. Unless everything was really clear, I doubt it.
I was wondering, maybe Síle, if I could break the ice. I don't know if we can share some feedback from last year, or like what was the general. Of course, maybe it will sound like we are singing our praises a bit.
A little bit, because it was an excellent year last year. I think the biggest feedback that we took from last year we only had 3 days with the audience designers, right? And then we had a module 2, which was kind of a follow-up session on Zoom of like, how's everyone doing? How's everyone progressing? But I think absolutely every single team was like, I wish I could have just stayed a day longer with the audience designer and like gone through everything. So we really listened to that and we added the 4th day, which I think is a good problem to have, that people want to spend more time with us, you know, kind of going through things. So that was a good feedback. What else? What other good feedback did we have?
No, I think it was interesting that we had 3 features, 1 document and 2 documentaries, right?
Yeah.
And the features, no, they were all like 1st and 2nd time directors, right? Coming from different parts of Europe.
Yeah, so we had a German team, an Austrian team, a British team, an Irish team, and who am I missing?
No, the German
one. Two German teams.
2 German teams.
Yeah, 2 German teams. So I mean, I should mention the lab is conducted in English. So it's important to have, you know, a good level of English for the lab. So yeah, so it was a bit of everyone and everywhere last year, which was really nice. And this is why we want to make sure as well that we give opportunities for the teams themselves to kind of like meet and talk about the process, not in a forced way, but just even like over dinner or just having a drink and be like, so what are you working on? And oh, have you heard of this company, or have you thought about this? It's always really helpful to have that peer-to-peer support. because yeah, it's just much more enriching.
Yeah. And you can test your audience kind of on different people from
yeah. And that's part of the peer-to-peer kind of like feedback review. I don't want to say too much, but it is kind of, you know, playing with this idea of new eyes and new ears and new brains on things and interpretation, and, you know, how are you tweaking things differently depending on who your audience is. So we really hope for it to be a kind of, you know, a playful and fun approach and workshop, and not a kind of school master or even corporate you know, approach. It's very yeah, it's very relaxing, it's very intimate, and we're, you know, we're collaborating with the film teams. You know, it's not us coming in and telling you, it's very much we're working together. And actually on that, I should say that your application, if you get selected, the materials will be sent to the audience designer that you've been paired with. So the audience designer will arrive knowing and breathing your film inside out as well. So I think that's also really nice to know that someone has like gone through everything that you sent them, which isn't always the case when you send things to kind of stakeholders. So, okay, so there doesn't seem to be any questions. I think either people are a little shy, or we've been quite clear, or they're even more confused and they don't know where to start. But please do reach out. You'll see there on the slide that if there's anything about the content of the lab, or whether you're eligible or you're not sure which project to put in, please contact me. I'm an open book. I'd be delighted to hear from you. And then if you have any questions in terms of the application form submission, scholarships, the fee, any accessibility needs that you may have or your team member might have, please contact the guys, Fatima and John, at office@screeninstitute.eu. So I think that was short and sweet. I guess people can quickly go and have a lovely sandwich during their lunch hour, but I wanted to thank you so much, Greta, for doing this with me. It's always nice to do this with a friendly face and someone who I know quite well. I wanted to thank John and Fatima for putting this on and in the background, sorting all of this for us. And then on behalf of the Audience Design Lab and the Screen Institute, a big thank you to the supporters and financial supporters and supporting partners of the Screen Institute. So I hope we read your application soon, and enjoy the rest of your day and have a lovely weekend.
Thank you so much. I really apply. It's the most special lab.
Bye, everyone.